The silent letters, Part 2, the Yood. First, let's begin with the non-silent Yood. A non-silent Yood, i.e. a consonant Yood, means its basic letter sound, y, is heard. The transliteration will have a y in it. First word, goeie va. Can you see the y in the transliteration? It's colored red. You can hear the Yood. Next word, goy. You hear the Yood. Next word, eima. Again, we hear the Yood. Now notice the Yood. It does not have any vowels on it. It doesn't even have a letter vowel attached to it, like o or u. This is confusing. It does not have any dots, yet it is heard. Next word, dai. Next word, banai. And last word, bain. The last word is easy. The Yood has a shva. Therefore, it is obvious that Yood has to be heard, because the shva means that the letter has to be heard, and we hear the basic sound of the letter, y. The silent Yood. A silent Yood means its basic letter sound, y, cannot be heard. It acts as a vowel letter, not as a consonant, and the transliteration will have no y, no y in it. For example, d. The Yood here is silent. It is almost dispensable. If we take it away, the syllable would sound exactly the same, d. Next word, bin. Shira. Taninim. The word taninim has two silent Yoods. And last word, Michael. The letter Yood, when is it silent? Only when it is part of the long E vowel, and obviously has no vowel of its own. For example, the short E vowel, mi. The long E vowel, mi. They are the same. They are equivalent. One is called the short E vowel because it is a short way of writing the E vowel, and the other, with the Yood, is called the long E vowel because it is a longer way of writing this vowel. In Hebrew, we call the short E vowel ktiv chaser. That means a deficient or short spelling. And the long E vowel we call ktiv male. That's a full or a long spelling. In other words, letters with chrik and naked Yood equal silent Yood. Chrik, that's a dotting sign that is depicted by one dot underneath the letter. And a naked Yood, that means that the Yood has no dots to it and no vowel letters attached to it. If the preceding letter to the naked Yood has any other vowel besides the chrik, that's one little dot, the Yood will not be silent, despite its confusing appearance, having no dots on it. Let's look at some examples. Mi, that's a silent Yood. Now look at all the rest. None of them are silent, because none of them have the dot, none of them have the chirik. They all have different vowels. For instance, ma, mai, ma, mai, me, mei, me, mei, etc. Exercise 1. Find the silent Yood in the next groups of syllables. Let's read it together. Lai, loi, lai, li, and lei. That's right. Only one syllable has a silent Yood, and that's the one with the chirik under it. Li. Li, you have a chirik under the letter that precedes the Yood, and afterwards you have a silent Yood. The chirik and the silent Yood together constitute the long E sound. Exercise 2. Find the silent Yoods in the next word. Vi-hi, vihi. We have two Yoods with no dottings or vowel letters attached to them, and before them we have chiriks, two chiriks. Therefore, both Yoods are part of the long E sound, and both Yoods are silent. Exercise 3. Find the silent Yood in the next word. Read it. Good. Vi, hi. The first Yood we can hear. We can hear the Y, the Y of the Yood. Why is that? Because we have a shva underneath the Yood. So we do not even have to look at the letter that precedes the Yood, since the Yood has its own vowel. So the first Yood we know is not a silent Yood. Now let's look at the next Yood. The next Yood has no vowels of its own, so we must look to the vowel before the Yood. Indeed, it is the chirik. Okay, so now we know. The last Yood is part of the long E sound, and the last Yood is silent. Exercise 4. Find the silent Yood in the next word. The next word is Iyov. Now, seemingly, we might make a mistake. We might believe that the Yood is silent because there is a chirik underneath the aleph that precedes the Yood. But that is not correct, because first of all, we must check if the Yood itself has its own vowel. Indeed, we have a vav and a dot on it. That's a long O sound, the long O vav. The vav with a dot on top of it is a vowel letter, and the vowel letter is attached to the Yood. Therefore, this Yood is not silent. It has its own vowel. Iyov, we hear the Y. Remember, if a Yood has its own vowel, it is occupied and cannot be part of the long E vowel. Iyov, tziyur. In both these words, the Yood has its own vowel. In the first word, Iyov, it has the long O vowel, and in the second word, tziyur, it has the long U vowel, depicted by a vav and a dot in the middle. Let's summarize. The silent Yood rule. When is a Yood silent? Only when it is part of the long E vowel. A letter with the chirik under it, one dot, plus Yood, that's silent. A letter with any other vowel plus Yood, that's not silent. This ends the presentation